The moment Meri took the stand, you could feel the shift in the air. Even the ceiling fans above seemed to slow down, like they didn't want to miss a word. The judge, a calm but sharp-eyed woman in her late 50s, leaned slightly forward. "Mrs. Brown," she said softly, "you may proceed." Meri's tone was even, but a storm brewed beneath. "Your Honor," she began, "for years I kept my silence. I convinced myself protecting our family meant staying quiet. But the truth—" She paused, her eyes darting to Kody. "The truth has a way of demanding to be heard." Kody shifted in his seat. His jaw was tight, his arms crossed. Robyn reached over, resting her hand on his, trying to steady him. But Kody didn't move. He just stared ahead, that same look of control he always wore when someone questioned his authority. Meri continued, "This case isn't about money or revenge. It's about deception, the kind which destroys not only marriages, but people's sense of who they are." The room murmured. Christine and Janelle, silently seated in the audience, exchanged glances. Neither had expected Meri to go this far. Not here. Not like this. The prosecutor approached the bench. "Mrs. Brown," he said, "can you tell the court what led you to file this case against Mr. and Mrs. Brown?" Meri breathed in deeply, her words coming out slowly. "It started when I noticed discrepancies with legal documents, adoption records, to be precise. When Robyn's kids came into the family, it all looked so official. But then when I saw the DNA reports added later," her voice faltered, words quivering slightly, "they didn't match what we were told." Kody's attorney immediately rose. "Objection, speculation and irrelevant to the case." But the judge raised her hand. "Overruled. Mrs. Brown, continue." The crowd in the back leaned closer. Every pair of eyes in that courtroom locked on Meri. She continued, her tone soft but clear. "I'm not here to humiliate anyone. I loved this family. I gave it everything. But when I saw that Robyn's youngest child didn't share a match with Kody's profile, I knew something was being hidden." Kody slammed his hand onto the table. "This is ridiculous. You think I'd lie about my own child?" "Kody, please, don't," Robyn whispered frantically. The judge gave him a stern look. "Mr. Brown, you'll have your turn." There was only the soft hum of the fluorescent lights for a moment. Meri's eyes shone. "I stayed silent for years. I convinced myself it was just a clerical mistake. But when I found sealed envelopes in Robyn's personal drawer, copies of DNA tests that didn't match, the truth became impossible to ignore." The prosecutor raised a manila folder and set it on the evidence table. "Your Honor, we have those documents ready for submission." The judge nodded. "Proceed." As the cloak revealed the documents on the big courtroom monitor, a collective gasp filled the air. The results were clear. The first test listed Kody Brown as the biological father, but the second, newer test showed no match. Kody's face went pale. Robyn's hands shook. "This isn't real," she muttered. "That's not the real test. Kody, tell them." Meri didn't bat an eye. "I'm not here to destroy anyone, Robyn. I'm here to find out why this was hidden. Why, for years, we've been told lies about family, about loyalty." Kody finally spoke, his voice low yet sharp. "You were never loyal, Meri. You've always wanted to tear us apart." She turned to him, her eyes steady. "No, Kody, I wanted the truth. You just didn't want anyone to see it." Again, the courtroom fell silent. The judge called for order, but she herself looked shaken. Meanwhile, Christine and Janelle watched in silence. Christine whispered, "I knew it. Something about Robyn always had that secretive look to her, like she knew something none of us knew." Janelle nodded. "But to fabricate a DNA test? She broke off, unable to finish. The prosecutor took a step forward. Mrs. Brown, do you have any evidence these results were deliberately falsified? Meri reached into her purse. Slowly, carefully, she pulled out a small USB drive. Everything's on here, she said. Emails between Kody and a private lab. Messages where Robyn requested a reissue of results before the adoption was finalized. Gasps again. The gallery erupted in whispers. The judge raised an eyebrow. Are you saying the DNA evidence was manipulated before being submitted to the court during the adoption process? Meri nodded. Yes, Your Honor. And the lab confirmed that one of the profiles was replaced before the final report was filed. Kody's attorney stood again. This is absurd. Where did you even get these so-called emails? The prosecutor said calmly. They were obtained legally through a subpoena. The metadata verifies their authenticity. The judge leaned back, her hands folded. Then we shall go through them in full. Meri looked down, softening her voice. I didn't want it to come to this. I loved this family more than anything. But when truth is buried under loyalty, it poisons everything. Her voice cracked slightly, and I can't keep drinking poison. The judge nodded slowly, making a note in her file. Thank you, Mrs. Brown. You may step down for now. Meri turned to walk back, her eyes briefly meeting Kody's. For the first time, there was no anger between them, just silence. Heavy, unspoken history. Robyn, still shaking, wiped away her tears. Kody, what if she's telling the truth? Kody's expression hardened. She's not. She's just bitter. But deep down, he knew. Something about Meri's calmness didn't feel like revenge. It felt like closure. The judge ordered a short recess. People stood, buzzing with unbelief. Cameras flashed outside of the courtroom door. Reporters whispered headlines before even stepping out. Inside, Meri sat quietly in the back corner, alone. Her lawyer leaned over and whispered, "You did good." But she didn't smile. Her eyes were fixed on the empty chair where Kody had been sitting. She whispered almost in a prayer, under her breath, "I didn't want to ruin him. I just wanted the truth." Outside, Kody paced the hall. His attorney tried to reassure him, but he could not get that image out of his head. The USB drive, the emails, and that one word, no match. And then, across the hall, Robyn's voice broke through. "Kody, what if she's not lying?" He turned, eyes ablaze. "Don't you dare say that." But this time, Robyn didn't back down. Her face was pale, her lips quivering. "You told me you handled it. You said no one would ever find out." He froze. That's when he realized someone had. The doors to the courtroom opened once more, and the room fell silent. The judge took her seat, adjusting her glasses. Her voice was calm, yet sharp. "We will now hear from Mrs. Robyn Brown." Slowly, Robyn stood, clutching a folded tissue in her hand. Already, her makeup was smudged. Her eyes were swollen. She looked like someone carrying years of guilt she could no longer hide. She walked to the stand, each step echoing through the chamber. Kody wouldn't meet her gaze. He sat rigidly, fingers clenched, white-knuckled into the table, eyes intent on some invisible spot on the floor. He had always been the voice, the leader, the center of the family. But it was Robyn who had the power in this courtroom to save him or destroy him. The judge smiled and nodded. "Mrs. Brown, you may proceed." Robyn took a deep breath. Her voice began to shake. "Your Honor, I never meant to hurt anyone. Everything I did because I thought it was for the good of our family." The prosecutor leaned forward. "Are you admitting that you changed or hid DNA evidence relevant to the adoption process?" Robyn shook her head rapidly. No, I didn't do it myself. But I knew. She looked toward Kody, then averted her gaze. I knew the results weren't real. He told me not to worry. He said it was just a formality. Gasps swept the courtroom. Christine put her hand over her mouth. Janelle's eyes went wide. Even Meri, who expected some sort of confession, wasn't prepared for how broken Robyn sounded. Kody slammed his palm on the table again. That's not true. She's twisting it. You think I'd fake something like that? The judge raised her voice slightly. Mr. Brown, control yourself. Tears began to fall from Robyn's eyes. He told me, it's just paperwork, Robyn. They'll never check. He said the lab didn't matter because the child was already ours in spirit. The prosecutor moved closer. Mrs. Brown, at any point did you tell anyone else about this conversation? Robyn nodded slowly. I told Christine once, a long time ago, but she didn't believe me. She said, Robyn, that's too serious to joke about. So I dropped it. I convinced myself it didn't matter. Christine turned pale. She whispered to Janelle, oh my God, she did tell me. The judge looked over her glasses. Mrs. Brown, do you have any written or recorded evidence of Mr. Brown's statements? Robyn wiped her tears. Yes, there's a voice message on my old phone. I kept it because I thought one day I might need to remember what really happened. The courtroom fell dead silent. The prosecutor turned to the bailiff. We request that the message be retrieved and played as evidence. Kody shot to his feet. You can't do that. That's private. Court judge cut him off. Sit down, Mr. Brown. If the recording is relevant, it will be played. Kody sank back into his chair, but you could see it in his eyes. Panic. After a few minutes, the audio started playing through the speakers. The sound was not loud, yet it was clear enough. Kody's voice came through clear as a bell in the courtroom. They'll never check it, Robyn. Just send what I gave you. No one's going to question it. Then Robyn's voice, softer, almost pleading. But what if someone does? What if Meri finds out? Then his reply, cold and final. She won't. Meri's loyalty is her weakness. The courtroom erupted. Reporters furiously scribbled. The judge had to strike her gavel twice to restore order. Robyn covered her face, sobbing. I didn't want to. I swear I didn't. But he made it sound like it didn't matter, like it was just paperwork. Meri sat still, her eyes fixed on Kody. That's who you really are, she whispered. You built your world on lies and called it faith. Kody didn't say another word. His chest heaved in his efforts to compose himself, but the damage was done. The prosecutor turned to the judge. Your Honor, we believe this establishes intent to falsify evidence and mislead the court in the adoption process. Kody's lawyer tried to speak. Your Honor, that recording is taken out of context, Mr. Brown was referring to procedural. Enough, the judge interrupted. We'll look at the context later. But right now, the court finds that Mrs. Brown's testimony corroborates evidence previously submitted. Robyn's hands shook as she wiped away her eyes. I thought I was protecting my family, but I wasn't protecting anyone. I was hiding behind him. The tone of the judge softened. Mrs. Brown, you may step down. As Robyn went back to her seat, she had to pass by Meri. Their eyes met briefly, one full of guilt, the other filled with quiet disappointment. Outside the window, thunder rumbled in the distance. The rain began tapping softly against the glass. It felt poetic, almost as if the world itself was reacting to the revelation that had just unfolded. Christine hunched over towards Janelle. You know what this means. Everything's going to come out now. All of it. Janelle nodded slowly. Yeah, there's no going back from this. Kody sat frozen, staring at the table. For the first time, he looked small. Not the patriarch, not the leader, just a man cornered by his own choices. The prosecutor said, "The court will next hear from Kody Brown. She was referenced in the testimony and can provide supporting context regarding Mrs. Robyn Brown's statements." Kody spun around, voice cracking. "Kody? No, she's not part of this." But Kody was already standing. Her face was calm, yet her eyes blazed. "Yes, I am, Kody. I should have been a long time ago." She walked toward the stand, passing by Meri and giving her a small, reassuring nod. Meri whispered, "Are you sure you want to do this?" Kody smiled weakly. "It's time." As Kody took the stand, the tension in the room tightened again. Reporters adjusted their cameras. The gallery leaned forward. Everybody knew that if anyone held the key to the next twist, it was Kody. The prosecutor stood forward. "Mrs. Kody Brown, please tell the court what you recall from your conversation with Mrs. Robyn Brown about the DNA tests." Kody's voice was steady but heavy with emotion. "She told me she thought something was off, that Kody had arranged something to fix the paperwork before the adoption. I didn't believe her at the time. But now, hearing that recording, I know she was telling the truth." Kody closed his eyes, slowly exhaling. Every lie, every manipulation, every layer of control was crumbling, piece by piece. Kody continued. He always spoke of honesty, of family values, but behind closed doors it was control, fear, image. That's what mattered most to him, how we looked, not who we really were. The judge leaned back, thoughtful. "Thank you, Mrs. Brown. You may step down for now." As Kody went back to her seat, Kody turned to her and whispered gruffly, "You'll regret this." She didn't flinch. "No, Kody, I already did." "The court will reconvene tomorrow to further examine evidence. You will be afforded the opportunity, Mr. Brown, to respond to this testimony." The gavel struck, its sound echoing like thunder. As they all stood, Robyn reached for Kody's arm. "Please, say something. Tell me it's not over." Kody didn't glance at her. "They think they've won," he muttered. "But I still have something they don't know about." Meri overheard it. She stopped at the door, turned slightly, and whispered under her breath, "Then I guess we'll find out tomorrow." Because tomorrow, the DNA truth would finally come out. The courtroom was packed the next morning. Reporters filled the halls. Cameras flashed outside the doors, but inside, it felt as though everything was heavy. A moment of quiet before a storm that everyone knew was about to hit. Kody walked in first, his shoulders squared, his expression stone cold. Wearing the same dark suit, this time his confidence seemed forced. Robyn trailed behind him, eyes cast down. Kody and Janelle were already seated, whispering softly. Meri sat alone again, quiet, nearly calm, as if she'd made peace with what was coming. When the judge walked in, all of them got up from their seats. Her gavel sliced through the silence like a knife. The court will now hear the evidence of DNA, as referred to earlier in the testimony. The prosecutor stood. "Your Honor, we have the official genetic report verified by an independent forensic lab. This test compares the profiles of Mr. Kody Brown and the minor child in question. The results are conclusive." The judge cut in. "He will, right now." She nodded to the bailiff, who handed both attorneys sealed copies. The prosecutor walked to the big courtroom monitor again and pulled up the report. 2 columns appeared on screen, one labeled Kody Brown, the other Subject A. The silence was thick enough to be palpable. Then, it was the words of the prosecutor that would change everything. Out of 23 markers tested, 0 matched. Mr. Brown is not the biological father. A collective gasp rippled through the courtroom. Robyn's hands flew to her mouth. Meri's eyes welled up instantly. Kody exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for years. Janelle just stared at Kody, speechless. Kody blinked slowly, shaking his head. That's not right. That can't be right. Robyn whispered, "No, no, please no." The prosecutor continued, voice steady and cold. "Twice the results have been checked, Your Honor. No biological relation." Kody rose to his feet. Behind him, his chair was heard screeching loudly. "This is a lie. Somebody tampered with this. You think I don't know my own child?" The judge banged her gavel. "Order. Mr. Brown, you will compose yourself or be removed from the courtroom." But Kody wasn't listening anymore. His world was spinning. Every camera in the room zoomed in on him, on the anger, the disbelief, the fear. He turned to Robyn. "What did you do?" Robyn sobbed, shaking her head. "I didn't do anything. You said it was fine. You said." "Stop lying," he snapped. "You knew this would come out. You knew." The judge called a brief recess again, but no one moved. The air was electric. Whispers filled every corner. Reporters scribbled furiously, and Meri, still seated, whispered softly to herself, "This is what truth sounds like." When the judge finally restored order, the prosecutor asked to recall Robyn to the stand. After a moment of hesitation, she rose and clasped her shaking hands together. The prosecutor nodded slightly. Told by whom? She hesitated and then whispered, "By him." The whole room froze. Kody leaned forward, his voice breaking. "Robyn, don't." She turned to him. "You told me the test didn't matter. You said you'd taken care of it." He slammed his fist against the table. "Because it didn't. Because you said it was mine." Robyn burst into tears, clutching her face. "I wanted to believe that. I needed to believe it." The judge leaned forward. "Mrs. Brown, are you implying that the child's paternity was misrepresented from the start?" Robyn nodded slowly. "Yes, but not by me. I thought it was love, but it was manipulation." Kody stood, yelling, "You don't know what you're talking about. You were nothing before me. I gave you everything." The judge slammed his gavel again. "Mr. Brown, you are out of line." But Kody wasn't done. His voice cracked under the weight of years of control and fear. "You all turned on me because I tried to hold this family together. You think I'm the villain, but I'm the only one who ever did what had to be done." Meri rose to her feet very slowly, her voice quiet, but weighted. "No, Kody. You did what had to be done for you, not for us." The silence that followed was stifling. Robyn sobbed quietly. Christine reached out, placing a supportive touch on Meri's arm. Janelle looked down, her lips quivering. Finally, the judge spoke, her voice firm. "This court will request a formal investigation into the falsification of adoption documents and genetic evidence. Mr. Brown, your behavior today only strengthens the need for that review." Kody fell back in his chair, defeated. His eyes were glassy, but his jaw stayed tight. "You don't understand," he whispered. "If people find out what really happened, they'll destroy everything." The prosecutor turned to him. "Mr. Brown, the truth already did that." As the court adjourned for the day, the cameras outside erupted with questions. Reporters shouted Kody's name, asking if he had a statement. But he walked past them silently, eyes fixed on the ground. Robyn followed, barely holding herself together. Outside, the rain had stopped. The clouds had broken, and shafts of sunlight streamed through the courthouse windows, a faint reminder that even after the darkest storms, light finds a way in. But to the Browns, that light wasn't healing yet. It was exposure. As Meri gathered her things, her lawyer approached quietly. "We'll need you ready for tomorrow. The judge wants to review Kody's communications and financial records next." Meri nodded, her voice level. "Tomorrow's fine." She paused, then softly added, "He always said he had nothing to hide." Let's see if that's true. The feeling of tension in the courtroom was like a storm about to crack open. The air was thick and heavy, almost electric. Every breath was louder, every shuffle of paper sharper. The judge leaned forward, his eyes darting between the witness stand and Kody's defense table. He knew something big was about to come. Everyone did. Meri sat down again, pale but composed. She'd done her part, told the truth as she knew it. But Christine, she seemed at war with herself. Her fingers tapped nervously against the wooden bench, while her lips were pressed tight enough to almost disappear. When the judge called her name, Christine froze. She didn't want to move. She didn't want to face Kody. But when she finally stood, the entire courtroom leaned forward. Christine Brown, once the bright, warm soul of the sister wives family, looked exhausted. Not just tired, but hollow. She shifted the microphone to her left hand, looked at the jury, and then Kody's gaze met hers. "Kody," she said, her voice soft. "You always said family was everything, but you lied to all of us." Kody shifted in his seat. "Christine," she cut him off, her voice breaking. "No, you lied to me, to Janelle, to Meri, even to yourself. You said you wanted peace, but all you wanted was control." The gallery murmured. Even Robyn looked away. Christine took a deep, shaky breath before she turned to the judge. "Your Honor, there's something you need to see." She reached into a small manila envelope and handed it to her lawyer. Inside were a series of text messages, screenshots that had never seen daylight, messages between Kody and Robyn, but also between Kody and an unknown number. He showed them all on his screen in the courtroom. Gasps filled the room. The messages ranged in topic, from family to finances, but most were manipulative in their content. Kody had been coaching Robyn in what to say in her testimony, even while the trial was ongoing. The gavel came down with a slam. "Mr. Brown, were you attempting to influence a witness during trial?" Kody's jaw clenched. "No, Your Honor, I." "Then explain these messages." Silence. Kody's lawyer leaned in to frantically whisper, but he brushed him off. His eyes flicked back and forth between Christine and Meri, his anger brewing beneath the surface. Christine swallowed hard. "He told us we were all paranoid, that we were overreacting. But this shows how far he'd go to keep control of the story." The judge took a deep breath. "This changes things," he said firmly. "Miss Brown, please continue." Christine nodded. "We were told to smile, to act happy, even when everything was breaking inside. We weren't wives, we were props. And once we stopped playing the role, we became threats." Her voice cracked. "He made us feel small, invisible. Every time I tried to leave, he'd say, 'No one will believe you, Christine. You'll look like the bitter ex-wife.' And for years, I believed him." Again, the courtroom fell silent. The whirring of the ceiling fan even sounded cruelly loud. Kody looked furious, his face flushed red. "You think you're the victim?" he barked suddenly. "You had a choice. You all did. You left because you wanted attention, not freedom." Christine's eyes flared hot with tears. "No, Kody. We left because we finally remembered who we were." Those words hung in the air like smoke. Robyn tried to interject, whispering to Kody, but he waved her off, shaking his head. His composure was gone. The calm patriarch replaced by something desperate and raw. The prosecutor rose. Your Honor, we request a recess so we can review this new evidence. These messages could change the entire case. Granted, said the judge, striking the gavel again. Court resumes in 30 minutes. As the crowd shuffled out, Christine sat down next to Meri. Neither spoke at first. Then Meri whispered, "You did good." Christine gave a small smile. "Did I?" Meri nodded. For the first time in years, he's scared. Christine glanced over at Kody, who was pacing with his attorney. Robyn sat still, her gaze fixed on the floor, her fingers twisting in her wedding ring. When the camera panned in for the documentary much later, Christine's voiceover came in soft but steady. When you live your whole life under someone's shadow, you forget how to breathe on your own. That courtroom, that was the first time I felt air in my lungs again. Inside the courtroom, as the session resumed, Kody's lawyer tried to regain control. Your Honor, my client has been under immense emotional stress. We request that further personal testimony be limited. The judge looked unimpressed. This court is here for truth, not comfort. Proceed. Christine stepped down, but before she did, she turned back. Kody, you always said you wanted the truth. I hope you're ready for it. Her chair creaked as she sat. The next witness was unexpected. Janelle. Calm, quiet Janelle, never one to publicly take sides. She walked to the stand, holding her phone in one hand, her face expressionless. Her voice was calm but cutting. Your Honor, I can verify those text messages. I saw them, and I have more. Kody's attorney jumped up. Objection. The judge raised an eyebrow. On what grounds? The attorney paused. Relevance. The judge smiled slightly. Overruled. Janelle opened her phone and scrolled through dozens of screenshots. He didn't just manipulate us. He was tracking us. Every text, every location, every time we met, without him knowing. He had access to everything. Murmurs began to fill the courtroom again. Meri put her hand over her mouth. Christine's eyes had widened. The prosecutor appeared shocked. Mrs. Brown, are you saying Mr. Brown monitored your devices without your consent? Yes, Janelle said firmly. For years. Kody's face went pale. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. For the first time in his life, he didn't have control of the story. Peace, the judge leaned back, slowly. We'll need to review this evidence immediately. Court is adjourned until tomorrow morning. The gavel came down with a sharp crack. Outside, reporters swarmed the steps to the courthouse. Christine and Meri exited together, arms around each other. Kody and Robyn slipped out through a side exit. Cameras flashed, microphones waved, but neither side said a word. Behind them, Janelle stood motionless in the dark hallway, staring at the closed courtroom doors. She said to herself in a whisper, "Tomorrow, everything changes." The next morning, cameras surrounded the courthouse. Reporters shouted questions into the crisp air. Their voices echoed off the stone walls. In a single night, the Brown family saga had become a national obsession. And everyone wanted to know one thing. What was in that DNA file Meri mentioned on day one? Inside, the tension was palpable. The smell of coffee and paper filled the courtroom. Kody sat rigid, his suit freshly pressed, but his eyes were bloodshot. Robyn looked defeated, her hand clutching his arm as if holding him together. Across the aisle, Meri, Christine, and Janelle whispered quietly, united not by love anymore, but by truth. When the judge entered, the murmur of the room dropped instantly to silence. He looked tired, but resolute. We've reviewed all submitted evidence, he started off, his voice carrying the weight of what was to come. However, before we proceed to closing statements, the court has one final matter to address. The DNA file. Kody's attorney immediately rose. Your Honor, that evidence was obtained under questionable. Sit down, counselor, interrupted the judge sharply. The court has verified the chain of custody. It's admissible. Kody's jaw clenched. He cast a glare at Meri that was sharp enough to cut glass. Meri slowly rose, her hands shaking a little, but her voice firm. Your Honor, this file was meant to stay sealed forever. But the truth doesn't deserve to rot in a box. The clerk handed the folder to the judge, who flipped it open. With every turned page, the air grew heavier. He finally looked up. This changes the narrative. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Even the stenographer paused mid-type. Meri, the judge asked softly, do you wish to explain what this means? She nodded. Yes, Your Honor. She turned to the gallery, her gaze sweeping over Kody. Robyn, Christine, and Janelle. Years ago, when Robyn came into the family, things started to change. There were rumors, whispers. Kody kept a secret he thought would never see daylight. She paused for a deep breath. But that secret has a name. She motioned toward the file. DNA results show that one of Robyn's children isn't biologically Kody's. The courtroom erupted. Reporters gasped. Robyn's face went white as a sheet. Kody slammed his hand on the table. That's a lie. The judge pounded his gavel several times. Order! Order in the court! Meri continued, her voice firm. He told us everything was about faith and family, yet all the while he was covering for someone else. The father is a man named Marcus Dean, a former church member. Tears filled Robyn's eyes. Stop, Meri. You don't understand. Meri's voice cracked, but she didn't stop. No, Robyn, I do understand. We all trusted him. We all trusted you. And now, the truth is out, because this family deserves honesty. Kody abruptly stood up. His chair scratched the floor. This is insane. You think I didn't know? Of course I knew, but I protected her. I protected our image, our kids, our show. The judge glared. Mr. Brown, sit down or I'll hold you in contempt. Kody's voice cracked. They all turned on me, Your Honor. I gave them everything. Houses, children, purpose. And they repay me with betrayal. Christine's voice cut through like glass. You didn't give us life, Kody. You drained it from us. Tears streamed down her face. Every one of us spent years trying to earn your love. But it was never about love. It was about power. Robyn sobbed silently beside him. I never meant for this to happen, she whispered. I just wanted peace. Meri's voice softened. Peace doesn't come from silence, Robyn. It comes from truth. The judge let out a heavy sigh, massaging his temples. This court, having reviewed all testimony and evidence, finds the financial and emotional misconduct alleged by the plaintiffs, Meri Brown, Christine Brown, and Janelle Brown, substantiated. The women looked at each other in astonishment. He further explained, damages will be awarded to the plaintiffs. Furthermore, investigation will be opened regarding document tampering and hidden funds. Kody sat still. His face was unreadable. The man who once commanded a household of wives and a nation of viewers now looked small. The judge closed the file. Court is adjourned. The gavel fell, but the story wasn't over. As reporters flooded the hallway, microphones were thrust into every face. Christine spoke first. This isn't about revenge, she said, her voice shaking, but resolute. It's about healing. We finally said what we were too afraid to say for years. Meri followed. The truth hurt, but silence hurts more. Janelle added softly, we lost our family long ago. Today, we just admitted it. Meanwhile, Kody and Robyn walked quickly out a side door toward their car. Shields of cameras flashed in every direction. One reporter shouted, Kody, do you regret anything you've done? Kody paused a moment. His voice was low, his jaw clenched. Regret? He looked back toward the courthouse. Only trusting the wrong people. He slammed the door shut, and the car took off into the distance. Later in the night, the camera followed Christine as she sat on her porch. The desert wind gently blowing through her hair, and her eyes shone with tears toward the dark sky. We thought we were building something holy, she said in a whisper. But maybe it was never meant to last. Maybe it had to fall apart so we could find ourselves again. Cut back to Meri, inside her car, her hands still shaking. For years. I waited for him to see me, she said. Now, I don't need him to. And finally Janelle, at her kitchen table, flipping through old family photos. She smiled faintly. Maybe we weren't perfect, she said, but at least now we're honest. The camera held on the three women, now separate but stronger for what felt like forever. Gone was the house that had ostensibly stood for unity. Something better had taken its place. Truth. The final shot zooms out slowly, fading from their faces out to the empty desert, where the sun is rising quiet, golden, and free. And then, one last line appeared on screen.